Did you know the greatest military victory in Roman history came from a general who refused to fight? When Hannibal crossed the Alps with elephants and crushed Roman armies, panic swept through Rome. Then came Quintus Fabius Maximus, a man they would mock as the delayer. While everyone demanded immediate action, Fabius chose strategic patience. He shadowed Hannibal's forces but never engaged. He cut supply lines. He waited. Romans called him a coward. Senators demanded his removal. But Fabius understood something profound. Sometimes the best action is no action at all. Hannibal grew frustrated. His troops weakened. His supplies dwindled. The legendary general who had never lost a battle was being defeated by someone who wouldn't give him one. This is the power of strategic patience. In business, rushing into bad deals destroys fortunes. In relationships, reacting emotionally breaks bonds. The Stoics knew this. They taught that timing is everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we suffer more in imagination than reality. Fabius saved Rome not through strength, but through restraint. Your greatest victories might come not from what you do, but from what you choose not to do. Master the art of strategic waiting. 3,000 years ago, Odysseus faced a deadly choice. The siren's song would lure him to his death, but he found a brilliant solution. He tied himself to the mast and ordered his crew to plug their ears with wax. When temptation came, he couldn't give in, even if he wanted to. Modern science proves Odysseus was a genius. Behavioral psychologists call this a pre-commitment strategy. You remove the choice before you face the temptation. The most successful people don't rely on willpower. They design their environment to win. Want to eat healthier? Don't keep junk food in your house. Want to focus better? Put your phone in another room. Want to save money? Set up automatic transfers before you can spend it. The ancient Greeks understood what we're just rediscovering. Your future self will be weak. Your present self can be strong. Don't fight temptation. Remove it. Build systems that make good choices automatic. Because the best way to resist the sirens isn't to be stronger. It's to tie yourself to the mast. Did you know Aristotle figured out why most friendships fail over 2,000 years ago? He said there are 3 types of friends. Most people get stuck in the wrong ones. First, utility friends. These are people you know because they're useful. Your gym buddy, work colleague, or neighbor who borrows your tools. Second, pleasure friends. People you have fun with. Party friends, gaming buddies, or people you grab drinks with. Here's the problem. Both types disappear when circumstances change. Move cities. Your utility friends vanish. Get busy with life. Your pleasure friends find someone else to hang out with. The third type is different. Virtue friends. These are people who admire your character, and you admire theirs. You bring out the best in each other. You share similar values and principles. Aristotle said these friendships last decades because they're built on who you are, not what you provide. Modern research proves him right. People with virtue-based friendships live longer, feel less lonely, and report higher life satisfaction. Want deeper connections? Stop asking what people can do for you. Start asking who they really are. Did you know the most powerful man in the ancient world once met a homeless philosopher who owned nothing? Alexander the Great had conquered most of the known world by age 30. He commanded armies, controlled vast wealth, and ruled millions. One day in Athens, he found Diogenes lying in the sun. This philosopher lived in a barrel, owned no possessions, and rejected all social norms. Impressed by his reputation, Alexander approached and said, "I am Alexander the Great. Ask me for anything you want." Diogenes looked up calmly and replied, "Step out of my sunlight." The conqueror was stunned. Here was a man who wanted nothing from him, nothing at all. Alexander later told his generals, "If I were not Alexander, I would want to be Diogenes." Think about that. The richest, most powerful man alive envied someone with nothing because Diogenes had something Alexander couldn't conquer. True freedom. He wasn't enslaved by desires, possessions, or the need for approval. Real wealth isn't what you own. It's what you don't need. Sometimes the person with less has everything that matters. Did you know that one of history's greatest philosophical movements was born from a shipwreck? 300 years before Christ, Zeno of Citium was a wealthy merchant sailing to Athens. His ship carried purple dye worth a fortune. Then disaster struck. His vessel crashed near the coast, and everything he owned sank to the bottom of the sea. Stranded and broke, Zeno wandered into a bookstore. There he heard someone reading about Socrates. Something clicked. He spent the next years studying under different teachers, learning from cynics who taught him to need less, from academics who showed him how to think clearly. Zeno took the best ideas from each school and created something new. Stoicism, the philosophy that teaches us the only true wealth is wisdom. The only real power is self-control. His greatest loss became his greatest discovery. Modern science calls this post-traumatic growth, when crisis forces us to find our true purpose. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what really matters. Your setback might be your setup. Did you know that texts written 2,800 years ago completely changed how the greatest Western minds understood reality? The ancient Upanishads contained a simple phrase that shook philosophers to their core. Tat tvam asi, thou art that. It means you are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. When Schopenhauer discovered these texts, he called them the consolation of my life and death. This German philosopher realized that everything he thought about consciousness was wrong. Emerson and Thoreau read the same ideas and created American transcendentalism. They understood that your true self isn't your job title, bank account, or social media followers. It's something deeper, something connected to everything else. The Upanishads taught that seeking happiness in external things is like chasing your own shadow. Real peace comes from recognizing who you truly are beneath all the noise. Today's mindfulness practices trace back to this ancient wisdom. You are not your thoughts. You are not your achievements. You are the awareness experiencing them. That realization changes everything. Two ancient Greek philosophers looked at the same broken world and chose completely opposite responses. Democritus laughed. Heraclitus wept. Both saw human ignorance and suffering everywhere, but their reactions couldn't have been more different. Heraclitus, the weeping philosopher, cried because people couldn't see that everything flows and changes. He watched humans cling to things that would never last and felt deep sadness for their blindness. Democritus, the laughing philosopher, developed atomic theory and found humor in human folly. Not cruel mockery, but wise laughter. He saw people chasing shadows while missing the deeper truths of reality. Here's what's fascinating. Both were brilliant. Both cared deeply about humanity. The difference wasn't in what they saw, but how they chose to respond. Heraclitus let the weight of human ignorance crush his spirit. Democritus found lightness in the same darkness. When life shows you its absurdities, you have the same choice they faced. You can weep at what people don't understand, or you can laugh with compassion at the beautiful mess of being human. Your response to life's chaos is always your choice. Did you know a man wrote one of the most powerful books on finding meaning while imprisoned in a Nazi death camp? Viktor Frankl lost everything. His family, his freedom, his life's work, stripped to nothing but a number tattooed on his arm. But in the darkest place imaginable, he discovered something extraordinary. He watched fellow prisoners. Some with strong bodies gave up and died. Others, physically weak, somehow survived. The difference wasn't physical strength, it was mental. Those who found meaning in their suffering endured. Those who lost hope perished. Frankl realized that humans aren't driven by pleasure or power like Freud believed. We're driven by purpose. He wrote that everything can be taken from you except one thing: your freedom to choose your attitude in any situation. Even facing death, you still have that choice. After liberation, he wrote, "Man's search for meaning," and founded logotherapy. His message is simple but profound. Life isn't about avoiding suffering. It's about finding meaning in whatever you face. When you have a why to live for, you can endure almost any how. Did you know that one of history's most misunderstood philosophers collapsed in the street while hugging a horse? January 3rd, 1889. Friedrich Nietzsche saw a carriage driver whipping his horse in Turin, Italy. The philosopher threw his arms around the animal and collapsed, sobbing. He never recovered mentally. For 11 years until his death, the man who challenged the world to think differently couldn't think at all. Here's what's tragic. Most people think Nietzsche wanted to destroy everything when he said, "God is dead." But he meant the opposite. He was telling us to create our own meaning, to build our own values. His idea of the Übermensch wasn't about being better than others. It was about becoming the best version of yourself. The real tragedy: his sister edited his work to fit Nazi ideas after he died. She twisted his message of personal growth into something he would have hated. The man who hugged a suffering horse believed in compassion and self-improvement. Sometimes the greatest minds are remembered for everything except what they actually stood for. Did you know that Socrates had a student who took his teaching so far that he said he'd rather go mad than feel pleasure? His name was Antisthenes, and he founded one of the most radical philosophies in history. While Plato built fancy schools, Antisthenes lived like a beggar. He owned almost nothing, wore rags, slept outside, but he claimed to be the richest man alive because he discovered something powerful. Virtue alone makes you happy. Everything else is meaningless. Your house, your car, your bank account, all distractions from true wealth. Antisthenes taught that freedom comes from needing nothing, that strength comes from wanting less, not more. He mentored Diogenes, who lived in a barrel, and his ideas became the foundation of Stoicism. 2,000 years later, his message still rings true. The person who depends on external things for happiness will always be a slave, but the person who finds contentment within themselves, they're truly free. Your worth isn't measured by what you own. It's measured by who you are when everything else is stripped away. That's real wealth.